Good morning. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us, for letting folks trickle in. So we will get started in just 1 minute. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome. Welcome to the Guided Pathways Workshop, Redesigning with Equity and Careers in Mind. This is a workshop, a two-part workshop. This is the first part of our workshop. The next one is next Friday, but we're so excited to have you. Today, we hope everybody is taking care of themselves, keeping their spirits high. We're excited to share this space with you, this virtual space with you, and to hear from our panelists and our researcher. So we will go ahead and get started. My name is Sherry Shojai. I am with Career Ladders Project. CLP is a nonprofit that is under the auspices of the Foundation for California Community Colleges, and we collaborate with colleges and their partners to develop equity-minded college redesign and to discover, develop, and disseminate effective practices across the state. We work alongside many of you, so a lot of familiar names that we saw registering for the event, and we're so excited to have you all here. Slide, please. So for our workshop, we have a couple of outcomes, and this includes the workshop that is coming up next Friday as well. The career workshop outcomes are really to kind of look and explore the key considerations for preparing students and working with employers in the changing economy. We know that a lot of things have kind of changed because of technology, and we also know that things have changed even more so because of COVID. So we want to see how we as systems, how we as partners can kind of work together to be able to prepare students for this changing economy. We also want to consider the racial and gender disparities in program and career choice. So taking a look at the research out of CCRC and looking at kind of the program enrollment trends and considering how that all kind of plays into our work. We also want to learn what other colleges are doing. What are folks doing to disrupt some of these challenges, to disrupt some of these trends, and how are folks reacting and pivoting in this moment of economic flux and racial reckoning. The first two outcomes we're really kind of focused on today are the first two, and then next Friday we're going to have breakout sessions where colleges and their partners are going to be actually providing breakout sessions around the strategies and the interventions that they're all utilizing to be able to interrupt some of these patterns. So please make sure you stay tuned for the announcements coming out for next Friday's event as well. Next slide, please. You will get a copy of the presentation today. You will get a copy of the recording today. We'll also be sending all resources, and we'll have a landing page on CLP's website where you can access all the resources from this workshop, next week's workshop, and previous workshops as well. So the agenda for today, welcome. We're again happy to have you all here. We're hoping that folks are able to stretch and kind of get their body moving while they're on this, and then also making sure that you're taking the time needed to feel good so you could be present for our students. We're going to go into a little bit of overview and framing from our executive director at Career Ladders Project, Linda Collins, and then research from CCRC from Dr. Hana Lahr. And then we're going to go into a panel of leaders, practitioners that are really kind of thinking about this, working on these issues, and have provided some incredible insight and work around these challenges. And then we're going to transition to our breakout sessions. Our breakouts are going to be facilitated discussions around kind of what you heard today and kind of what you could take back to your own work. And then after our breakout sessions, we are free to go on about our day. So now I'm going to hand it over to Linda Collins. And just a quick note, if you have any questions, if anything comes up, please feel free to use the chat function. And we can either address your tech challenges, or we can also we'll be collecting your questions to ask the panelists. If we're not able, because our time is limited today, if we're not able to get to all the questions, we will try to make sure that we are providing resources, following up, so that we're getting to folks' questions in a feasible way. All right. So Linda, I'm going to hand it over to you to frame our day.
Thank you so much, Sherry. It's really nice to be here this morning. Hello to everybody. I see lots of different colleges, people, friendly faces from all over the state. Really welcome. As many of you know, with support from the California Community College Chancellor's Office, the Career Ladders Project has been working alongside you as you move to redesign your colleges, your institutions, with student experience and student needs at the center. And oh, by the way, all of these will also be posted on the Vision Resource Center run by the Foundation and the California Community Colleges. So both Guided Pathways and the Vision for Success have asked all of us to focus on completion of certificates, completion of degrees, and transfer. But we know that's not really the end in and of itself. Rather, those items, those post-secondary credentials really hopefully are the ticket to a better life, to careers that enable students to support themselves and their families, to have more agency and self-efficacy, to have the means to build better communities and a vibrant civic as well as economic life. And the question, of course, is, are we doing that? How do we do that? And do we do that equitably across the board for students? When we were first working on Guided Pathways, we realized how important, as have most of you, it is to have student voice at the center. And when we talk to students, we initially, I think we did about 16 focus groups at different campuses, and we asked students, what they wanted, what they needed. And uniformly across the board, we found students saying that they wanted more guidance, more information, more support in understanding their choices and how their courses and programs relate to careers. Whatever their interest field, they wanted to know, how did it work? And this student, for example, I think also raises the question, it's not just economics, it's, are they happy in those jobs? What do I do? Do I become a TV broadcaster or a professor? Those kinds of questions, students really didn't know where to go or who to talk to find out these things. Next slide, please. And a lot of them report that they're swirling around, that they may be changing majors, jumping from one to another. One student said they know lots of people who've been there for 5 or even 7 years, and that they don't really, they think part of it may be that they don't have someone to sit down with them and say, here's what your strengths are. These are options that might be really good for you, and to have a dialogue about making those kinds of choices for their life. So they keep jumping around, or at least this student's perception was that that was a big part of why they're taking so long or taking so many units. Next slide. Some of them also said they didn't really understand until often at the very end of the process, basic labor market information, how much do you make? Which of these occupations pay more or less? What are the career fields in this general area? So again, if they'd known that up front, it might have helped them in their choice making. Next slide. So as we were doing that work, we really began to feel that in listening to colleges, that they'd like more attention to how we design with career in mind at the heart of Guided Pathways. And how does that intersect with equity? We, in February, held a workshop that I see quite a few of you on the list actually attended. And we had Dr. Cecilia Rios Aguilar, who's with us again today in our panel, address the crowd as to talk a little bit about her research around how students choose majors. What are the funds of knowledge that they bring in their own labor histories that they bring to the table that we can build on? And what are the ways in which we can better integrate knowledge about those choices into the very instruction and programs that we offer? And we also had a number of colleges presenting how they did that. Dr. Rios Aguilar also has done deep work in partnership with Pasadena City College, among others, in participant research to begin to uncover some of these ideas. So this workshop really builds on that. And if you're interested in finding more out, these are linked in the PowerPoint, and you'll be able to find them if you go back and look at the PowerPoint. We also did a little video because we wanted to make sure that, Cecilia, that you're a rock star in the community college world. So if you're interested in that, that's also available. So this workshop builds on that. And what we also see is that since that time, so much has changed. Obviously, you know this, but next slide. But the pandemic not only has changed everything, but it's also, well, not everything. It's changed so much, but it has only deepened and not alleviated the kinds of inequities that we see across communities. We know that low-income people have been hit the hardest. And among workers, we know that Black and Latinx workers and communities have been hit the hardest. They're twice as likely, even before the pandemic, to earn incomes below the poverty level. They're overrepresented historically in industries which have been impacted. So they're less likely, and they're less likely to be able to work from home. Those of us who have advanced degrees or who have at least some college, associate degree or more, we're more insulated. And that includes most of us, I think, on this webinar, that we've been relatively insulated from some of the worst impacts. Less likely to be laid off, more likely to be able to work from home, and therefore less likely to be exposed to COVID-19. Though all of us, of course, feel vulnerable. We also know that many Black and Latinx owned small businesses, which are really critical employers in the communities and really serve as community institutions, those businesses have been especially threatened and are less likely to have the capital needed to survive and to wait this out. So our students are part of those communities that have been disproportionately impacted. Next slide. And if you've probably seen, some of you, the impact survey that the Chancellor's Office did this summer, just looking at what is happening with our students. And it may probably, I would say by now, even be more dramatic than this, but you can see 53% of our students at that time reported that their income had decreased. Sizable numbers had been furloughed or had their hours reduced. And if we look at housing and food insecurity, 57% reported basic needs insecurity. That includes food insecurity or housing or homelessness. And if you see there on the chart, you can also see, while all communities are vulnerable and have been impacted, it's been especially hard on the Native American students, on Black students, Latinx students, and Asian students proportionately. So these issues of what careers students choose, how they enter the labor force, how insulated are they in the economic downturn that's going on, really has become even more critical if it wasn't before. What do we do about that? And how do we know that as we go forward with the economic recovery, how do we take advantage of the racial reckoning that is also upon us as we've witnessed the murder of George Floyd and so many others? And there's a moment where we really are wrestling. Most of the colleges are reporting that they're really trying to follow a call to action around racial equity. How do we take advantage of this moment? How do we stop or play a role in not deepening the inequity? In fact, how do we play a role in turning it around? We like to think that the community colleges are institutions that promote economic mobility. We like to think that we're institutions that provide pathways out of poverty. But are we doing that for everyone and in the same degree? College credentials have never been more important, but who gets which credentials to what end is the question for today. Next slide. Just as a taste, Dr. Lahr is going to go into this in more depth, but just to say that we know that there's disproportionate achievement or attainment of certificates of bachelor's degrees, with white students overrepresented in baccalaureate attainment relative to Black and Latinx students, for example, and a growing percentage of share of Black and Latinx students are completing certificates. Let's talk about that today. Part of the reason we've invited Hana Lahr to our event today is because the Community College Research Center has been really taking a look at the data nationally as to what is going on across the board with students' completion, and how does that relate to guided pathways. We know that labor market returns are greatest for baccalaureate, but what's going on in the overall mix, both nationally and in California? You know, Anthony Carnevale has said that the closer you look at the data on post-secondary education, the more stratification is found. Non-degreed post-secondary certificates go disproportionately to African Americans and Hispanics, he said. Among the top 468 colleges, spending on instruction itself is roughly lower by half, where Black students and Hispanics are concentrated. And the stratification is also clear within institutions in the distribution of majors. This is a huge set of issues that we really need to wrestle with as both part of the racial reckoning and as a core set of questions in our guided pathways redesign. So CCRC work that's recently illuminated some of these trends, I think, is a really good place to start in unpacking what's going on and then what we need to do about it. So it's just really delightful that you're here with us, Hana, and just to let people know a little bit about you, you are a senior research associate at the Community College Research Center at Teachers College, Columbia University. Your current research is focused on implementation and evaluation of guided pathways practices, both nationally in Ohio, Tennessee, and Washington, but also here in California. Your previous research looked at state-level performance funding in several states and the unintended impacts of that kind of funding. And prior to that, you were an academic advisor and coordinator of student life at Metropolitan College in New York, and worked in student affairs at Harrisburg Area Community College. So you come to us also with a strong practitioner background to add to your research insights. It's really a pleasure to work in tandem with the Community College Research Center, and especially to have you here today. So take it away, Hana.
All right, thank you, Linda, for the introduction. Hi, everyone. It's great to be joining you from New York City today. I grew up in Berkeley, so I have in addition to doing some work in California, I always enjoy the opportunity to spend time with people from the California community colleges. So today I'm going to share some new research and tools that CCRC has been working on. I'm really representing the work of our Guided Pathways team, including Davis Jenkins and John Fink and Maggie Fay and others on our team. But a big focus of our work lately that I want to get into is less on sort of the mechanics of guided pathways, the structures, things like meta majors, program maps, but more on thinking about which students at your college are enrolled in which programs of study, and which of your programs lead to careers that offer a family sustaining wage or transfer with junior standing in a major, and which students are overrepresented in some of the lower opportunity pathways, the programs that don't necessarily lead to transfer with junior standing in a major, or jobs that do not pay a family sustaining wage. And then looking back another step, what is the onboarding like at the college? How do students end up in these programs? And what is the role of the college in creating some of these patterns of over and underrepresentation that we see? So I'm going to share some of our work showing that this is a really important issue, and that to address longer term equity gaps, we really need to focus on onboarding and what happens in the student's first year. So next slide, please. So first, I want to give just a little bit of context. I'm sure a lot of you have seen all this recently, and it's probably your lived experience in colleges right now. But as you're aware, community college enrollment across the country is down an average of 10% below where it was last year. Across different age groups, it varies from 4%. That's really among students 17 or younger, the dual enrollment students, to 11% with older students. And what's particularly alarming, as we've seen reported, is the big drops in enrollment that are much higher, really around 20% among Black, Latinx, and Native students. So next slide, COVID really accelerated a trend that we were seeing for a long time, since 2012, of declining enrollments nationally. These pictures are showing enrollment trends going back to 2012, and these show the percent change in enrollments, with declines in California that are a little less than in some other states. But a big takeaway here is that enrollments of adult students and those 18 and 24 have dropped, and there have been big increases in dual enrollment students, as shown by the mostly green map in the bottom right-hand corner. Next slide, please. So last enrollment slide, I promise, but this screenshot is of a Tableau tool that CCRC developed this spring, and it's available on our website where you can check out enrollment trends across the state of California, but you can also look at your individual institution. And what we see here is that overall community college enrollment in California is back down to where it was around the 2000s. Next slide, please. And that community colleges have lost some market share among traditional age students to public four-year institutions. And we do see this trend across the country. But some of the other trends we're seeing here in California, enrollment by older students, those 25 and older, just has been declining and is really at an all-time low. Enrollment by dual enrollment students has risen sharply since 2015. And enrollment by Black students has been dropping pretty precipitously since the Great Recession. And so this was all pre-COVID. And again, this has really just been accelerated by the current crisis. Next slide. So I want to pivot slightly to kind of orient ourselves to the topics I wanted to cover today and build on these this just foundation of like, we have declining enrollments across the country, but it is happening in California as well. And thinking about guided pathways, it's a really complicated reform. It touches on all parts of the college and really all parts of the student experience. And so lately at CCRC, we've really been focusing on kind of these 4 areas of practice related to program design. So where do your programs lead? Onboarding, how are we helping students to explore and enter programs of study? And the first year experience. And that relates to connecting students with faculty, advisors, students, alumni, employers, and others in their field of interest, building this community, which we have seen across a number of California community colleges. Often these are being built around meta majors with student success teams, and really trying to develop this sense of community, which we think is even important now during COVID, to help create this sense of belonging for students and for underrepresented students in particular. And then really building in active and experiential teaching and learning opportunities for students, and really ensuring that students have what we're calling kind of a light the fire learning experience in their first term that's going to get them excited about their program of study and give them some momentum moving forward. So it's not just that you're taking program courses or programs with some active and experiential learning kind of after you get through your gen eds, but this is something that every student has experienced from the start, because now they're entering programs of study. Next slide, please. So these, the next couple of slides really dig into this idea of guided pathways for what, and for whom. So I want to focus on thinking about where programs lead, what they prepare students to do, and who is in these programs. But first, a little background again, this time, focusing less on enrollment patterns, but on some completion patterns. So next slides, please. So Linda had mentioned earlier some work by Tony Carnevale in the Center for Education in the Workforce at Georgetown. And this cites some of their research as well. So what they have found is that good jobs, which they define as those paying a minimum of $35,000 for workers between the ages of 25 and 44, and more for older workers, really increasingly require bachelor's degrees. And this is a pattern we've seen across the country, and it's really exemplified in by this research. And we can get into, there's lots of conversations about the definition of a good job that are beyond just the economics and what a job pays. But for purposes of this slide, we're using his definition. Next slide. So, in addition to requiring a bachelor's degree, we also find that employers are also looking for students to have some experience or know-how that they're acquired through active and experiential learning. Next slide. And this includes like having these what are often called like 21st century skills, which I don't necessarily agree with that term, because I think these are kind of skills that were important before the 21st century, but these are what employers are looking for. Things like good written or communication, collaboration, problem solving, communication skills, social intelligence, critical thinking, all these really important skills. So in addition to having the bachelor's degree, it's more than just a bachelor's degree, but a bachelor's degree with some of these skills that are learned through active and experiential learning. Next slide. So this is research from the National Student Clearinghouse. And what this shows is that this is what we call the highest outcome slide. So this is looking 6 years after initial enrollment of a 2013 cohort, and this is national data. But what we see here is that within 6 years of initial enrollment, only 41% of students completed any degree or credential. So that could include a certificate, an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, any degree or credential. And in the left, we see that this is the overall, the 41%. And then when we break this down by race, we can see some patterns of some inequities here. So among Asian students, 49% are completing any degree or credential within 6 years. Among Black students, it's much lower than the national average at 29%. For Hispanic or Latinx students, 37%. White students are above average at 50%, and those of 2 or more races are at 41%. So, but in addition to just thinking about how few students complete any degree or credential within 6 years, which is a pretty long time frame, the other thing on this slide is that it shows how many students are just no longer enrolled or are still enrolled after 6 years. So we see like between 13 and 23% of students after 6 years are still enrolled. Now this doesn't get into where they're still enrolled, but they're still enrolled and they haven't completed anything, not a certificate, not an associate's degree, nothing. So next slide, please. So just another way of thinking about the highest outcomes in 6 years. So this is by state, and California got cut off here, but you are sandwiched between Connecticut and Oregon. And what this looks like, what this graph is showing is there's that 41% number again, but it's showing how many students are completing at a community college, how many are completing at a four-year institution, how many are still enrolled, and how many are not enrolled again. So you can see here, California among states is below average, with about 18% of students completing a degree or credential at a community college, 18% completing at a four-year, 23% are still enrolled, and 42% are no longer enrolled anywhere. So because this is National Student Clearinghouse data, they are looking at whether the student enrolled anywhere, and 42% are not and completed nothing 6 years later. Next slide. So some additional research, and this gets to back to the idea of thinking about, well, what are these certificates, or what are students earning certificates or degrees in? And this is again drawing on research from the Center for Education and the Workforce. But what they found is that among California community colleges in 2016 and 2017, only 21% of the certificates awarded were in these higher returning fields. So again, this is using their definition of higher returning fields, but it includes things like engineering technology or drafting, mechanic repair technology, law enforcement, but only 21% of certificates awarded were in these higher returning fields. Next slide. And what this slide shows then is that 19% of associate degrees awarded were in these higher returning fields. Again, some similar ones, engineering, healthcare, agriculture, but this is, again, so less than a fifth of degrees awarded in California were in these higher returning fields. Now, I was a music major in my undergrad. Those degrees at the bottom, those are just as important as the ones at the top in my view. But I think the important thing here is to tell students and to have conversations with students about what it means to be a fine arts or a music major, what it means to be an education major. Likely you are going to have to transfer. You are going to have to earn a bachelor's degree. You might have to go on and get a master's degree. So just having these conversations with students, I think, is really important. And it's not just saying that these degrees aren't of value. I think they're of very high value, but it requires different conversations with the students. So I think that's something to keep in mind in terms of advising conversations and conversations with students from the start. Next slide, please. And then this is just some additional analysis in California on the number of degrees that, the number of credits that students are earning for various degrees among California community colleges. So this is the median credits earned by associate degree completers from the top 20 California community college programs in 2015-16. So you can see the range here is from 73 credits for humanities and social sciences degrees to about 99 degrees for students who are earning associate's degrees in nursing. And the key thing here is that you can see most of these are transfer degrees, but transfer degrees only have economic value if they enable students to transfer as a junior in a field of study and complete a bachelor's degree with no excess credits. So if a student is completing a degree with, associate degree with almost 90 credits and then transferring, they're likely, depending on their field, they may not be able to be a junior in a program of study, which means that they're not just taking another 60 credits to graduate, but sometimes taking another 80 credits to graduate. So it's really important to consider these things when we think about transfer degrees and the value of transfer degrees. Next slide. So we developed this planning guide and this data tool to help colleges dig into these data related to these questions. So what we really are asking are three big questions. What programs are students currently enrolled in? Which programs lead to greater or lesser opportunity? And is student representation across programs proportionate? Next slide. So when we think about post-graduation opportunity at the community colleges, what we've been thinking about at CCRC lately is how to categorize these programs into some bigger buckets. So one way we do this is by thinking about, we have programs that are workforce programs and we have some transfer programs. Within workforce programs, we like to distinguish between programs that lead to jobs that pay a pretty low wage. These are like workforce low programs, workforce medium, and workforce high. Now this is based on research we did in Washington, but for colleges, it's important to use your regional labor market data because what's a living wage in one city is going to be different from another city and especially state by state. So, but this just kind of gives a framework for thinking about this. And then the transfer structured and transferred unstructured, this gets at the point I mentioned, is can a student transfer with junior standing in a major? And the ADTs in California are what we would consider transfer structured programs. But the more general associate degrees are unstructured. And those are the ones where students are more likely to earn a lot of excess credits, to transfer with excess credits and not be able to transfer as a junior in a program of study. And then there's typically a lot of undeclared or unknown students, uncategorized. These are often dual enrollment students or just students who we don't really know what program they're in. Maybe they're not in any program. So this is one way to think about how to categorize programs and to start to look at which students are in which programs of study. Next slide, please. So this is a tool, we call it our Program Explorer tool. It's available on our website. It's pretty easy to use. You just need to enter some student level data, and then it creates some pretty cool tree maps that you can look at to just see visually where are our students. So next slide. Once you enter these data, it'll create this list of programs for you. So it'll just list out your programs and how many students are in each of these programs. Next slide. And then it'll create these tree maps. So what you see here, and this is a little difficult to see, but basically the orange bucket here, these are transfer unstructured programs. So this visual shows you, this includes all students at a college, and you can see that about, I don't know, maybe 40% of students at this college are in transfer unstructured programs. The darker blue at the top are the structured transfer programs. And then at the bottom, the light blue, the green, and the yellow are the workforce programs. And you can see that among workforce programs, most students are in these workforce low programs. And then the gray box at the top are these unknown, undeclared, probably a lot of dual enrollment students. So it just gives you a nice visualization of where are our students. And next slide, please. And then what it does, it allows you to drill down by program and look for these patterns of over and underrepresentation. So the box at the top shows you kind of the overall composition of your college by race, and then you can look at individual programs and see which programs are students of color overrepresented in or underrepresented in. And it's not that the patterns are gonna, they're gonna look exactly the same as the overall composition, or that should be the goal. But what it does is it highlights that in many cases, students of color are overrepresented in workforce low programs. Next slide, please. And the other cool thing you can do with this tool is also look at completion. So the slides I was just talking about really focused on the front end and that enrollment, like where are our students in a given term. But you can also then look at completion, and you can disaggregate these data as well. And you can see, all right, so among white students, for example, when they entered in a given semester, we see that 20% were in this transfer unstructured program, 36% ended up completing a transfer unstructured program. So a lot more students just default into this transfer unstructured program. And then among African-American or Black students, we see that about 19% of students started out in workforce low programs, but of the students who graduate, 27% of Black students completed workforce low programs. And this is only including students who actually made it to the finish line, not those who dropped out along the way. So of completed students. And then among Hispanic or Latinx students, you can see about 12% started in a transfer unstructured, but over a third of students completed a transfer unstructured program. And you can also see that they also tended to move into workforce low programs. So it's just useful to see where students start and where they complete. Next slide. But the point of these data is really to have conversations. And this is an example from Lorain County Community College in Ohio that's been looking at these data for a while. And what this graphic on the right shows is they looked at, among their different student groups, which programs are students overrepresented in and which programs are students underrepresented in. So just in the top line, this is their Black African American students. You can see that they're overrepresented in real estate, practical nursing, human services programs, and underrepresented in dental hygiene, sonography, computer information. So and then, they're thinking then about what do these programs lead to? What kind of jobs can people get in this college's region? So it really is about facilitating conversations. Next slide, which they do them at the college level. They have these conversations within committees and divisions, and they also have them within pathways teams. So these are conversations at the meta-major level. So like within a student success team, thinking about why are we seeing these patterns? Is it structural? Is it about access? Is it about something the college is doing? What other information do we need in order to act on this? How do you equip students with tools to make the most informed decisions? And how is this going to help inform their redesign efforts? Next slide. So all of this really, this focus on program enrollment has led us at CCRC to think that the first year, as I mentioned, is really, really critical. It's critical because when students can be helped to explore their interests, their strengths, explore college programs, be given information about where these programs lead, careers, and choose a program that's at least initially aligned with their goals, this is really going to give them some momentum moving forward. Next slide, please. And those two publications here are some new onboarding materials that we released in the last couple months. But another reason that onboarding is really important is that some new research we've been doing lately has found that early momentum, as measured by completion of a certain number of credits in the first term, completion of Gateway Math and English in the first year, is that it's really, really important, and that it's a key factor in low completion rates in general and for underrepresented students in particular. So that if students are not gaining momentum in their first year, they're not going to complete. And that if colleges are not closing equity gaps within the first year, they're not going to close some of those longer term equity gaps as well. And previous research we've done has suggested that an increase in early momentum is predictive of higher completion rates. So it is important to gain momentum early on, and this can be helpful, one, in closing equity gaps, and two, in looking at longer term effects related to completion. So in additional research, we find that this early momentum, achieving early momentum, disproportionately benefits Black, Latinx, and lower income students with regard to their likelihood of completing an award in a high opportunity workforce field and completing a bachelor's degree. So next slide, please. What you can see here is that credit momentum is important. Kind of the baseline is the benefit baseline here, but it has additive effects or even larger effects for Black, Hispanic, and lower income students. Up to 4 to 5 times, 7 to 9 times as important for low income students. So the idea of this early momentum is important, but it's even more important for underrepresented students. Next slide, please. The other reason that, and I mentioned this earlier, that early momentum is really critical is that because half of students are gone by the start of year 2 at most community colleges. This is for one state, but we find that this pattern really holds up when we look at the college level and at the state level. So you can see here, what this is showing is enrollment in meta majors. But the big takeaway here is at the start of year 2, which is term 5 in this state, 47% of students are gone from higher education. So it's not that they're enrolled somewhere else, it's not that they transferred, but they're just gone. And when we looked at this for underrepresented students, it was even higher. It was closer to about 60%. Next slide. So then the other key thing here, and another reason we think it's really important to focus on the first year, and a key part of focusing on the first year is to focus on what courses students are taking in that first year. And are those courses going to get students excited about their program, help them explore their program, figure out if their initial program is a good fit or not. And when we look at course taking patterns among top enrolled programs, we see that students are generally not taking program courses in their first year. Instead, they're often taking developmental math and English, maybe a student success course, maybe some sort of gym course or a speech course, but they're generally not taking program courses. So we think this is really important, again, to this idea of lighting the fire, which we borrow from Diego Navarro, who does a lot of work out in California. But we think this is really critical in terms of getting students, helping them learn about programs, but also giving them some momentum and some excitement about the program that they're studying. Next slide. So some other research we've done, just talking to students, figuring out what they want with onboarding really aligns with some of these ideas. So they're looking for assistance in exploring their academic and career interests. They're looking for information on program options in their field of interest and their connection to career opportunities. They're really looking for opportunities to connect with other people in their field of interest, other students, maybe recent graduates, faculty, people who can help them, form this community within the college. They're interested in taking courses on topics of interest in their first term. They really want to develop these educational plans. We've seen this in research we've done in other places as well. The idea of making a comprehensive educational plan is really important and kind of a key piece of the guided pathways model, but most colleges still don't help students do that. And then one final note is that, it is important to figure out how to target and individualize services to students, because those who have clear career goals need different kinds of support than those who don't. So it's not going to be a one size fits all model, but we do think that some of the structures like meta majors and program maps that can help kind of provide some like a structure or systems processes to help facilitate more individualized and targeted support for students. Next slide. So just to wrap up this idea of onboarding and why it's important in terms of helping students into programs of study and into higher opportunity programs of study, is that we've been thinking about what does onboarding look like in the guided pathways model. So it's moving away from orientation to college and what it means to be a college student, which is still important, but what's really important is orientation to fields of study from the start. Moving away from more optional career and transfer advising, or only really offering it to students who say that they're undecided, to making this required for all students. Because what we know is that even students who come in and say they are interested in a particular major often could still benefit from some career and program exploration. And then moving away from engaging with programs after students complete their prerequisites. So complete all your prereqs, and then you can take the cool program courses, to engaging with programs from the start. And then moving away from a la carte high school dual enrollment course taking to making dual enrollment an on-ramp into a program pathway. So doing all these things, orientation to fields of study, career and transfer, advising and program planning, engaging with programs, do that for dual enrollment students before they even enroll as a college student at the college. So that sums it up. I want to turn it back over to Linda now.
Thank you so much, Hana. We don't have a lot of time, but we do have a little. So just wanted to note that there's quite a few questions coming for you in the chat. And one of them, I think they're kind of related, from Craig Hayward, is the FTIC cohort a first time ever in college cohort?
Yeah. Hi, Craig. It's nice to see you, even to get your question. Yeah, it's first time ever in college. So when we look at the FTIC cohort, it includes students who are not previously dual enrollment students, are not returning students. They're just fresh to college. And we focus a lot of our work on this FTEIC cohort because if you want to look at like the effects of what a college is doing on students, it's best to look at students who have no prior college experience. That way you can also track that same cohort over time, because dual enrollment students who are returning are, they're different. But if you want to look at the effects of what a college is doing on students, best to look at this FTEIC student. Then also look at returning students, dual enrollment students, transfer students, but starting with the FTEIC is what we recommend.
Okay. Yeah, that was his follow-up question. I think you really answered it, but he did want to point out that so many of our students take summer bridge or similar coursework in the summer prior.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, I think that's something I learned that was a little bit unique about California when we were involved in the AACC Pathways project, is that there's more students start the summer before in California than in some other states. So I think if you want to, if a college wants to modify this and maybe start with summer, I think that's fine. It's just always important to track the same cohort over time. So every year, look at the same cohort. It might make comparisons to other colleges if you want to do that a little trickier, but I think it's fine as long as you do the same thing every year.
There's also a question about what about the fact that the majority of our students are part-time?
Yeah, I think it's important to include all students. So regardless of part-time, full-time, just, when we look at, when we look at our early momentum metrics, we look at, we include part-time, full-time, all students, because the part-time, full-time is often this distinction that colleges make, and it sort of sounds like, you are a part-time student, you are a full-time student. When we look at enrollment patterns, we know that it's really chaotic and students kind of sometimes flip between full-time and part-time. So by just looking at all students, it can help to kind of reframe this idea of distinguishing between these groups of students, when in fact, like, there's a lot of crossover between these. And if you can look at various indicators like completed 6 or more college credits, like that is going to include a lot of part-time. Once you get to like 12 or more college credits, 15, those will include more like full-time students. But
got it. Well, thank you so much, Hana. I'm seeing lots of thanks and kudos both in the chat and in the Q&A. We've also put a link to the tool that CCRC has developed. It's downloadable and you can use it, adapt it in your local context, or follow up with them to find out how to use it. So we're hoping that you'll find that useful, and also we'll continue discussion to see, are people using it on campus. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Hana. I know you're going to stick around and listen to the panel. Next slide, please. So that was meaty. As I listened to you, Hana, I just found myself thinking, well, I know colleges are sites of empowerment and economic mobility, but they're also sites where we can be reproducing or replicating structures of inequity by race and by gender. And so what do we do about this? How do we disrupt this, I think, is the question that's probably on most of our minds. And to that end, we've brought together a really distinguished group of panelists to at least kick off a discussion for us. And they bring a range of perspectives. They're from a range of roles in different campuses, and also one is a university partner. So I really, I'm not going to introduce, in the interest of time, I'm not going to introduce every one of them. Just next slide, please. Just so you know the lineup, we have Dr. Abdimalik Buul from San Diego City College, Vice President Jackie Cruz from Hartnell College, Professor Jennifer Johnson from Bakersfield College. Next slide. Dr. Patricia Ramos from Santa Monica College, Dr. Cecilia Rios Aguilar from UCLA, and Professor Michelle Simotas from City College of San Francisco, who also is a director here with us at the Career Ladders Project. So it's a great lineup, and we're going to engage them today. I'm going to try to keep this a bit interactive, but I just want to first of all kick it off by asking each of you to tell us, what do you make of this research and these insights that Hana has shared, and also how does it intersect right now with your work at your college or in your research? And why don't we kick it off with you, Abdimalik?
Thank you, Linda, and thank you all for being here, and Hana for that wonderful, to answer your question explicitly, vindication, I think, for what many of us in the trenches have been really exploring and dealing with. One of the interesting roles that I play at my institution is I'm a counseling faculty member, but I'm housed in the Transfer and Career Center, so the pseudo director of the Transfer and Career Center. And so after being there for several months, I noticed the power, the positionality, and the privilege, the 3 Ps that we have, in really being at the nexus and the juncture point of industry with corporations and companies coming to recruit our students, as well as having incoming students, be they freshmen or transfer students. And so being at the center really allowed me to see the pipeline or the projection for our students and what could be. And so that allowed me to really have a different paradigm shift into my practice. one of the things that really stood out for me in this research, or some of the findings, was really dismantling these antiquated ways and archaic ways of looking at certain careers, right? So we look at workforce low programs, who's overrepresented. I look at our cosmetology programs. I look at some of our machine technology programs. I look at our refrigeration programs, and having a relationship in this community of practice in this guided pathways model is so instrumental, in that if you have the relationship with the faculty member, you're then able to really help mitigate some of these dropout points that we noticed. So I noticed that when we had faculty come and have discussions with our counseling faculty, instructional faculty, and talk about what are some of the gaps that we're noticing. Well, we see that one professor said, Justin Bond, if I can have my students for 6 more months, they can go to the next level of their training program, which will pay them $7 or $8 more, which would then, further help alleviate this low wage earning program that they're in. So things like that to me are very, very important, because then we can then fundamentally be a community college, right? And that is utilizing the community resource around us. So I look at our workforce investment board, I look at our nonprofits, I look at our foundation wing. We have an entity at our institution that's a nonprofit that's not maligned or restricted by equity funding, that you can't give certain vouchers or gas cards or food cards. Why are we not leveraging those resources who can actually make race-based incentives? So yeah, where are Black, Latinx, or Native American, Indigenous populations, they can actually give out funding and services because they're not held and restricted by the normal processes. And then so what I started to do is I started to hold industry accountable. Noticing that, for example, Spayware came to us and said, hey, we want to increase our Black and brown male population in STEM. Very explicit ask. So, okay. And they're at the community colleges. They're not at the university. We want to get them at the community colleges. We talk about the early momentum in credit, but also early momentum in experience. And we can convince them to stay at that particular major. We're going to offer them a job, not even an internship. We're going to call it a job. They don't have to reapply once they're completed. They're going to do all their security clearances. We're going to offer them a job. They want to go part-time or full-time, we'll supplement that. When this happened, this allowed us truly to revolutionize and have a paradigm shift in the way in which we see our students and the agency that we have as instructional, non-instructional faculty in community college systems. So I think really this research highlighted the need to break these archaic ways and to think outside the box.
Thank you, Abdimalik. Jackie, do you want to pick up from there?
Yeah, man. Thank you for that. That was very cool. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I want to thank YouTube and Coco Melon for raising my 2 little girls during the pandemic. That is something that is so real to me. So I would shout out to all the parents out there struggling right now. I want to say that what resonated most with me was vindication, inspiration, and data driven. So thank you, Hana, for your team, for all the research and all the work that is really highlighting, like Abdimalik mentioned, the underground network of equity change agents that have been working in the community college system for decades now, trying to really lift up their work, and now having just so much evidence and having the tools that are being provided to us both by our chancellor's office, which I really want to actually give a shout out to them, because in the 22 years that I've been in my career, I've never had so many tools that we can use to put out there to really make our case. So the case is not just a case of equity, it's a case of our relevancy as a system and our relevancy to the economic development of our country. So the state of California, because of where we sit and our influence overall, we've got a huge opportunity to really adopt these models that are really working, and we can show the country that it can be done. So that's the way that I kind of see this. So I was totally inspired. I want to just really give a big, I guess my message would be that each of us have this amazing influence and this power every day as change agents when we walk in, or now virtually walk into our work, and every decision we make and everything that we do in order to design models and systems that work for our students really are making a difference. Linda mentioned something that really resonated with me as well, which is that this actually ends up touching the lives of families, people, and whole generations. So I think that's what we're doing. So that's why this work is so important to us. Okay, in terms of how it resonates with our college and some of the work that we're doing, probably the one that is most known by people, and that's the one that I'm going to talk about because of its familiarity with folks, is the CSN3 program. And so just to give a highlight on the URM and the statistics regarding the makeup, the disaggregated data on the makeup of that cohort. It's a 3-year baccalaureate degree in computer science. It's one of those fields that are the high earning fields, high demand, but typically are not positions held by Latinx or our African-American brothers and sisters or underrepresented minorities like women. So I'm going to tell you here with our program in the overall 8 cohorts that we've had, it's 230 students. Our URM underrepresented minority is 93%. Our Latinx students is 81%. Our first generation is 74%, and our female is 40%. The graduation rates, our transfer rates and associate's degree are in 1.5 years is 85%. Our graduation rates are 74% in 3-year baccalaureate degree and 77% in 4 years. So a few folks don't make it in 3 years, but they continue on, they make it in 4 years. And so how does all of the data and the findings that we were just presented really have to do with this model? Well, it's the intentionality, the systems and the design, the way that it's designed with equity in mind. So there are several aspects of that. One of them is having the growth mindset, high support systems with high expectations, relentless equity-minded focus, ensuring that the staff that are part of the program are going out to the high schools and that represent the community that it's out in the high schools, meaning that they can relate. So some of those are important principles. The other part is internships. There is a built-in internship in year 2 of this program. So the whole program is 3 years. The internship is built in year 2. And that really adds a lot of value to the student. And it allows industry from different parts of the state to know the amazing talent of the community college student. So it really flips on its head the conventional makeup of STEM workforce in our country.
Wow, what a powerful example, Jackie. Thank you. Jennifer.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me be part of this panel. I'm Jennifer Johnson, and I'm a faculty member at Bakersfield College. I'm also part of our Guided Pathways implementation team as the faculty lead, and I was previously the curriculum chair. So I'm going to take a little bit different approach in responding to Hana's presentation. One aspect of her presentation was very reaffirming for the work that we're doing at Bakersfield College. Many of the points and the data points that were presented were things, thanks to Craig, where we are on the forefront of really integrating those practices into our work. But looking at our topic, to basically touch on how I see this intersecting with our local guided pathways work, is that from the very beginning, when we started our guided pathways, we started using the phrase, explain it to the students, keeping the end in mind. So start with the end in mind, and the end was career. And how did we accomplish that? Well, there were several different ways. One was from our perspective, my perspective as a curriculum chair, as we started to have new programs developed, we would ask faculty to consider, will your program lead to a family sustaining wage or a high earning wage career? And if not in its initial development, can you create stackable credentials that will allow the student to start building their portfolio, ending with not just the associate degree, but the bachelor's degree. So the second tenet of our starting with the end in mind was the educational pathway. We developed, used the tool, the Program Pathways Mapper, where we're able to show the students not only what it looks like, what does that path look like from the associate degree all the way through to a bachelor's degree. And when you go to the landing page, if you decide to become a psychology major, one of the options that the student can click and explore is, what can I do with this degree? And there are pieces of information and asterisks that also tell the student, with an associate degree, you can do X, but you would need a bachelor's degree if you want to do Y. So we are really trying to inform the students early on and then complement their educational choices with the support that it would take to keep them on the path in the true spirit of our guided pathways. So in that framework, we focused on stackables, the intersegmental maps, which is going from beginning to, from the community college to the associate, to the bachelor's degree, and supporting the students along the way.
Very, very comprehensive strategy. Thank you, Jennifer. And it picks up on what Craig was saying earlier in response to Hana too. How about Tricia?
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you to CLP, and I'm honored to be amongst these distinguished panelists. Let's see, the data for me was validating, it was illuminating, but it's not new to me. I've been looking at challenges like this and similar trends for at least the past 10 years in my role as the Dean of Workforce and Economic Development at Santa Monica College. I just recently switched roles, but that hat still is very big on my head. And I think CTE and you know, careers is tattooed on my forehead. So I mean, just even I love the title of this, you know, of this webinar series, and I love who we've gathered, you know, to be thought partners in this work, because the data is what it is. It hasn't changed. Not much has changed in the last 20 years. What has changed is the increased accountability to us as community college practitioners. What has changed is funding that allows us to try to close these equity gaps, and you know, and really kind of this demand on us to bring different divisions across the college to come together, you know, to move students through, not just for, you know, the betterment of them and their families, you know, but for our local economy. So those are big, giant challenges for, you know, for professionals to try to problem solve. So what this work means to me is that more of our colleagues are looking at how we re-envision what students come to us for and how we serve them. And those of us that have been, you know, trying to signal this alarm that we really do need to be more career minded and focused are, you know, obviously welcome the work that they're doing, you know, at CCRC, and that Dr. Carnevale has and his associates have been doing at Georgetown's Center for Workforce and Education. So those have been my kind of guiding, you know, pillars when I look to them in terms of what the trends are, because that is the job of a dean for the most part, is you're looking at trends, you're trying to bring in resources, whether those are capital or human resources, to problem solve for your institution. So when I began to look at the trends that Hana revealed, you know, in her presentation, I want to know what it means for Santa Monica College. You know, we've got 32,000 students and 100 programs. So when you present these macro trends, I want to know if that's what it means for us and our programs at Santa Monica, because national data is very hard. I mean, you can't make assumptions. What you can do is do your own research and, you know, validate those findings. But, you know, it's too naive to assume that, you know, those national trends are what is, relevant in Bakersfield and, in San Diego and in Los Angeles. So that's really the work that we've been doing in LA. So that's how it intersects with my job. And the faculty at Santa Monica have just been amazing at wanting to problem solve for the threats, not just to our students, but, to the whole community college system. We have just really sat back on our laurels as community colleges and waited for students to come to us. And that's just not the case anymore. In the last 20 years, the economy has changed, education has changed, and there are threats, and we cannot assume that we're going to continue to exist. So as a practitioner, I want to make sure that community colleges stay relevant, in the face of all this competition. And if we are going to stay relevant, our programs obviously need to adapt. Our services need to adapt to, the new students and entrants and their expectations. So that just requires us to really change and pool our resources and work together, because we can't wait another 20 years to problem solve, to improve the student, end-to-end journey, to make sure that our programs are delivering the skills that students need, to really understand what this means about completions, right? Enrollments, completions, wage gains. And so that's how it intersects with our work. And I'm honored to be with you guys.
Thank you so much, Tricia. Yeah, so much on our plate, but Cecilia, how about you?
First of all, thank you again for the invitation. I'm honored again to come think with you about these things. I'm glad I went after Tricia because I'm similar to her, and this is not too much news for me. I'm not surprised in that, for years I've tried to understand, and I've made the argument that I've advocated for a new model in higher education of persistence by asking colleges to think how to incorporate labor market so that we could see students persist and succeed at higher rates. So the documentation, I think, is not new. It's just that we're disaggregating more. We are seeing now more and more data that is more granular, more focused on students of color. But I wanna point out two things. I want to say to all the colleges, I see a lot of my colleagues join the call. I want to say to all of you that if we don't pair this data with conversations with students about racial identity development and asset-based frameworks, we're not going to get anywhere. It's going to be 20 more years and we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to find another visualization tool and present the data. But our students, I want to go back to where Linda started us with the framework of student voices. Students are making these decisions about majors, careers, jobs, but they're also asking themselves, what does it mean to be a Latina today in Santa Monica? What is it to be a Black man walking the streets of Pasadena because it's not safe? They're having these thoughts. And also we can't assume that they come in need of being rescued and with nothing. They bring what I've been advocating for is their labor histories. That's why I said racial identity development and asset-based thinking, because they already have jobs. They're already doing some of the things and those skills of the 21st century or whatever that thing is called. They already do a lot of that in their jobs today. They are nannies, they are working in and out. They know more about dealing with difficult customers than I do. And I think we have to acknowledge that, validate that, and start from there, not trying to assume that they have nothing and that they just come to college to get everything that they need. Is how do we capitalize on what they bring to get them where, yes, the high paying jobs and maybe opening their doors, but they ultimately have to make these choices. And recently I've been talking a lot with my colleague, Mike Rose, who some of you may know. He writes beautifully. And he has this essay that I reread recently. It's called The Inner Life of the Poor. And in that he details and he tells us we have very few understanding of what it means to be poor, but we're making assumptions. of what it means to be a low-income student of color today in community colleges. So what we have to do is this institutional shift of saying we need a culture of caring. Yes, that also includes exploration, guiding students, but we need to stop thinking so much about bureaucracies and maybe more requirements. I heard the word requirements. I would be very careful in adding more requirements and instead changing the language. It's so important that our students think of how are we going to take care of them? Why don't we ask them what does it feel to be a student today? If we don't do that, we're going to keep again reproducing the same stories. 3 things that I learned from my Gates experience 10 years ago. We went all across the country, 700 interviews, Nebraska, New York, California, Texas, Wyoming, Wisconsin. The things that really complicate students' persistence and success in community college, 2 things: course availability and financial aid. Where are those conversations about this in this data? Because if we don't add those conversations, then again, we are not going to be addressing what's at stake for students, which is basically their lives. So thank you, colleagues.
Sorry, there we go. Really opens up the discussion, Cecilia. Thank you for that. And I just want to make sure we get Michelle in here.
Hi, thanks, Linda. It's hard to come after all of that greatness. But Cecilia is always really inspiring for me. I mean, one thing that made me think about is Dr. Frank Harris's work on authentic care, right? And this idea that if we can help students to come into colleges and feel like we care about them, we care about what they want to do, we care about where they want to go, we care about their success and meeting their dreams, and kind of help them to feel that sense of belonging and community, I think we could make so many strides. But we have all these institutional barriers to really like making that transformative cultural change. And those institutional barriers are, we need the data and we need what is the thing we're going to do, the transaction we're going to do to produce the outcome that we can report to the state. And I think so much of what I see in this research and what I've been recently reading are things that we need to do that we are not going to get immediate measurable outcomes for. This is like the long game, right? We need to do these things and then we need to like keep doing them and do them better and bring in more people and then you know, look at the outcomes. So I think for me, where it resonated with my work in leading the Guided Pathways team at City College of San Francisco is that last year we spent a lot of time thinking about how we're going to make students feel more connected and welcomed. So all of that was very validating in the work that we focused on last year. But now that we have a plan and we're close to implementation with success teams and with a first year kind of program that helps students with career exploration and navigation and connection with internships and things, we are facing barriers. You know, we're facing barriers to how are we going to know that this is working? How are we, you know, we're trying to do too much at once and things like this. And so it's difficult to take these ideas and move it forward. You know, we're kind of there, but because we're not going to have any in a year outcomes that show it's working. It'll take longer than a year. And, you know, my hope is that we can start thinking in this transformative cultural change and thinking about it as kind of the long game before it's too late. Because the reality is, hopefully our next administration is going to come in and make higher education free. So what does that mean for community colleges? We better hope that we're bringing in the community and we're really supporting those people. So thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you, Michelle. Very helpful. You know, looking at the time, I think we'll just go on. You've already started, I think, talking about, well, if we're going to anchor our redesign efforts in equity, you know, what needs to be done to interrupt these patterns that replicate stratifications? how could we get there? And also, have you seen any examples of transformations? You can build on what you've already talked about, or let's go deeper, transformations that really begin to get at this. And I know, Jackie, you might want to speak to that one.
Yeah, I want to also mention something that we really wanted to talk about. And one of the things that founder Joe Welsh and Professor Satya Narayan for the CSN3 program, they used to tell me, you know, Jackie, we give students the death of by 1,000 cuts. And that was one of the things that they would always try to pass on to all the administrators. And so they actually were advocating and they knocked on many doors to be able to get this model off the ground. But the big message was around reducing the barriers for the students. And a lot of it had to do exactly with what Dr. Cecilia Rios was saying. The course outline was developed from the get-go, and there's no way out of that. There's one course outline, and all the students go in it together, and they end together. And it's set in stone. And that planning ahead of time that, you know, lays on the shoulders of the faculty and administrators makes the pathway, it eases and opens the pathway for our students. It takes the guessing out of the game. And something that sounds so simple, but it's so hard to do in practicality because our systems don't work that way. That's not the design. That's not what we're used to. And so once that is done, it really eliminates a lot of the guessing, a lot of the navigation issues, a lot of the, you know, being bounced around from one person to another, which then leads to them being discouraged, you know, our students being discouraged. So that's one of the things that I wanted to mention. As far as the equity focus, I think also thanks to the AB 705 legislation, AB 288 legislation, you know, AB 19 legislation, all of those coming together really help us to really onboard and work with our high schools with dual enrollment and such to be able to start doing this pathway work way before they come to the college. But once they're at the college, I think one of the things that is really important is to lift up what our counselors with master degrees are really capable of doing, which is helping our students talk about life and talk about support systems and talk about the social aspects and the social challenges. That's what our counselors are so talented with, but typically they end up doing course schedules or clerical work. And so I'm kind of speaking, you know, from the heart here of everything that I've seen, and this conversation comes up, but then it's kind of the sacred cow, right? We can't touch that part because that's you know, that's a piece of work and a set of systems that can't be challenged. And I say no, absolutely not. No sacred cows. This is about the students. And so this program actually eliminates all of that. The staff and folks are doing the work on the planning. The counselors, you know, collaborate, but all of that is set aside. So I think we got to think about that. It's not impossible. It's really not. We built the systems that exist now. We can change the systems to be the new kind of way.
I see. Thank you so much, Jackie. You're getting a lot of here, and kudos in the chat. And I see that you've unmuted yourself, Abdimalik, and you're smiling, so you must want to respond. Yeah, and I also see Jennifer next. You're responding as well. So Abdimalik.
No, Jackie really inspired me to think about, you know, Nelson Mandela's quote about courage, not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. And we really are in these, as Dr. Cecilia mentioned, these fear-based models, bureaucracy. And it would be educational malpractice in this era of everything that's happening to not think outside the box, to not reimagine, to challenge systems, to interrupt, to dismantle, to disrupt, and to actually decolonize, and to have a race-based analysis of what's truly going on. When these budget cuts come, what are we going to do? Are we going to look at where our Black, Brown, Indigenous students are at? which programs they're enrolled in? Are we going to cut from those 5% across the board, these cookie cutter programs, these, these antiquated ways in which we past practice, right? We have to start taking back language. So the term equity has been watered down. It has been co-opted. The term the diversity, equity, inclusion, we need to flip that. Let's call it what's the opposite of inclusion? Exclusion. What's the opposite of equity? Injustice. What's the opposite of diversity? Is it whiteness? Is it male? Is it male-centered, right? Imagine if we start to have how do we dismantle white male, non-exclusive injustice trainings as opposed to diversity, equity, inclusion trainings? Much more different philosophy. What if we start to have race-conscious budget analysis? So we need to really analyze, interrogate ourselves. And yes, I always felt this way, Jackie, that as a person with a master's degree in counseling that has the ability to dissect deep conversations with people, to be reduced to just course outlines that can be populated on a computer program is really not the best use of our talent and time. So we need to disrupt that and we need to dismantle that. And lastly, we need to hold each other accountable to our why, right? Our why. When industries come to me, I say, hey, what is your recruitment, retention, and ascension efforts? Show me your org chart. If I give you a student of color, they want to go to your company, and they ask the question 5 years from now, where do you see yourselves? And nobody on the executive leadership looks like them. That student to me is a valuable asset. I'm not going to take the precious student, throw them into this pitfall of they have no projection feature in them. So I have to hold that responsibility towards those industries. Likewise to my colleagues and say, hey, do we understand the labor market information? Are we knowledge informed? This data that's coming that Hana talked about, that Dr. Ramos and Dr. Cecilia and others on this panel have been talking about for years. Have we made a decision to close this gap? Knowledge without action is like a tree that bears no fruit. Knowledge without action is like a tree that bears no fruit. We need to make decisions with the knowledge that we have, the data that we have, the knowledge that we have, the practitioners that we have on the ground utilizing the work, and ultimately exercise our agency and courage. This is the moment for courage. And I hope we can be courageous.
Thank you, Abdimalik. Jennifer, and then Jackie, you're getting a lot of snaps. Abdimalik, thank you. Jennifer.
Agree. It's difficult to follow both of you. I am not counseling faculty, but at our institution, what we've really tried to do in our succession and completion coaching teams is to have faculty and participants be comfortable in doing that ed planning piece, I guess, for lack of a better word, and allow counselors to counsel. That is their area of expertise. So let's honor what they are what their area of expertise is and partner so that we can help our students and move our students through the process. So kudos to you, I agree. And so on the courageous piece, that does require courageous conversations. And at our institution, examples of interruption that I would share would be, as you create programs and certificates, that it requires intentional, flexible design. So I've been in the chat talking about competency-based education. That's where California community colleges are going. Title V language is introduced. We are moving in that direction. And that is the ultimate flexibility for those students that want to move through the system. Another way, until that occurs and the Title V language is approved, you can think about things like 8-week classes, getting students through the system, because there's data, going to data-driven decisions that shows that students that have those small kudos and completions of those 8-week courses and are successful, they're more likely to persist. So looking at your persistence data. We use early college. So back to how do you start and change that mindset from a fixed mindset to an asset mindset to early for students. And we start early college in the 9th grade, where our students can take through dual enrollment, they can actually complete their high school degree with a college with an ADT. And now they're on a pathway through the MAPper that they go immediately on the bachelor's path at graduation from high school. And we give them the support and the tools that I can do college. What does that college going culture look like in their family, in their makeup, in their culture? And how do we start to address and provide that support for the student? And then lastly, just to kind of talk about a little bit about the link to industry and academia. we are exploring and starting to utilize badging. And so we look at those 21st century skills, we partner with industry, and if they say we want students that are, you say the student SLO, student learning outcomes, says that they have teamwork, what does that mean when they actually come to my facility and run a plant floor or run an automation team? What does that look like? So the language then is developed so that a student receives a badge, which would be an icon, that would say to an industry partner, you said you were looking for this set of skills, these abilities, and in this course, these are the skills and the abilities, and they match together. So that industry doesn't have to try to figure out what we're talking about in academia. What is this SLO thing you speak of? It is really labor and industry focused and oriented. So when we talk about creativity and innovative, those are some innovative things that everybody can consider as we want to move forward and marry what we're doing to ensure that our students are on paths for high wage earning jobs, and that they've done that exploration. So super lastly, really lastly, is we've created an Introduction to Pathways course that explores early on, trying to capitalize on the student making choices, but informed choices, where they have some of that experiential learning in that first semester of college, non-credit, so it doesn't count against their financial aid. What does it mean to be in this pathway, all of the programs and careers that you offer at your institution? What would that mean for me if I chose this pathway? Also making it non-punitive to the student, that if they change their major and decide this isn't for me, there's been no loss. There's been maybe a semester, maybe 8 weeks, but not lost because there's information gain. Thank you.
Yeah, really good examples of transformational approaches. And, you know, I'm thinking also, as you raise that question, Jennifer, is, you know, Cecilia, I know you've spoken quite a lot about the importance of looking at classrooms themselves as sites where this can occur, not just often student services or career services. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I think in February, I encourage all of us to look at classrooms as site of resistance, transformation, hope, and possibility, right? Which is very similar to what Abdimalik is telling us is, okay, the students are having, and again, I want to make sure that with equity conversation, I'm very clear about what it means. For me, it means putting at the center those who are least likely to succeed for anything that we decide. So I think it's not just disaggregating, but I'm just going to post an article that I read earlier today about an institution, Amarillo College, and how they're implementing this culture of caring. And they say, well, if you think of your institution, your students, the real ones that you have, not the ones you would like or the ones you imagine, right? The ones that you have, single mom, Latina, working part-time. So let's put that experience at the center and then design around that. That's what equity means for me. It means putting them at the center of, so connecting back to what Jennifer is saying, that's exactly 8 weeks flexibility, the times at what they can complete the course. We're in Zoom land, and a lot of us will stay in this environment because it may work for some students. So they need flexibility, they need that in mind. So, and I think it is in the classroom, in the context of the classroom. Sometimes we send them, oh, go to the financial aid office, go to your counselor, go, but then they look at me as to at what time? At what time am I going to be able to do that? Do I know where it is? Do I know what? So that's why I said, let's bring all those to the classroom. Let's open. And what I read about it, what I like, one of the things I like the most about this article is that the president of Amarillo College is saying, we're so worried as faculty, as content, and they need to learn all these things, but without understanding the reality, there's no content, right? So I think that's the invitation, is how do we re-envision classrooms so we can have both conversations of exploration of careers and job, but with a very firm understanding of what exactly they're going through.
Perfect. Yes. I'm thinking, you know, as as you talk, I know that you've been doing a lot of work, similar work, Michelle, at City College, particularly around thinking about the integration of services and instruction. And I'm just curious if you might want to talk about a couple of those innovations or what you're seeing working as you move forward at City College.
Sure. Well, one thing that I think we're just starting to do that kind of connects with the data is that we're looking at building these student success teams around our, what we're calling academic and career communities. And in the STEM majors, we've identified that we have students that are, when they're applying to the college, they're stating that they want to major in a STEM field. Yet the people that were graduating or transferring in the STEM field are predominantly male, white, and Asian. So we've identified these kind of opportunity gaps at the college for Black, Latino, female, American Indian students. And so we're trying to look at how can we build the success team to help support students to feel welcome, but how can we leverage programs that we know are already working for these communities and help bridge them to these majors if students are interested in them. So programs like Puente that at City College of San Francisco, we know does a really good job of supporting students through their first year and getting them connected to services. I'm getting an internet message, so hopefully you can hear me still. So that's kind of one of the things that we're trying to, that's one of the things that we're trying to do is really build in financial aid support, career planning, and do that in the classroom, connecting with the mentors in that area who are connecting with the faculty. And then we're also building a network of peer mentors to help identify and be kind of the first person that students can reach out to and have kind of a warm handoff to resources. But that's what we're just kind of kicking this off. We're hoping to leverage Canvas shells that we can build out that faculty can plop into their Canvas shells. So we have that kind of direct connection to students and really just trying to make it easy for faculty to utilize these resources and connect students to the resources that will help them be supported.
Thank you. Yeah, what I really hear people talking about is also the importance of toggling back and forth between the large ideas and insights and a framework that we need to really make progress on equity, but also practically, how do we undergird it? What does it mean concretely for us to do this work? And being mindful of the time, I also want to think a little bit about our next question, which is, we've heard from you some of the things that are really going on to move us in this direction, and some of the things that need to be done. So part of my question is really, what's keeping us from doing this? What's stopping you on your campus? And I know several of you want to talk, so I ask you, Tricia, what's the problem?
Well, it's simple. This is really, really hard work. It's really, really hard work. And as higher education institutions, we are not innovative. And we've just now recently been required to, think on our feet and do the kinds of innovation across the campus, from our board members to our presidents, to our senior staff, counseling, and faculty. Faculty in career education are, champions here because they've always had to be innovative. They always have to keep their eye on the ball on what's happening with industry. But now we're trying to figure out how do we, backwards engineer that. And, we're kind of elitist institutions, even at the community college level. And I think that when we put equity, at the center of this work, it just, exposes that and begins to break it down. So workforce preparation, I since I've been in this job for the last dozen years, I can tell you that, I as practitioners, we rank each other, and those workforce people were over here and the transfer was, a little higher on the pedestal. and I mean, that happens at the CSU and the UC level too, right? We rank, as individuals. It's a normal thing. But, if we are going to adapt and meet the workforce demands and the changes that our student bodies require, it's going to take investments, again, resource and capital investments. And I think I love, that I've met all of you fabulous thought partners and thinkers. And I think Dr. Cecilia Rios Aguilar is just one of the most innovative champions that we have. It's the perfect intersection of time right now, and just the kind of model that we need. And of course, Dr. Rose, your colleague over at UCLA, always valued, the skills that it takes. So, again, getting all of our faculty to think about how we prepare students, those experiential learning opportunities inside and out of the classroom, making sure that we're not sending students to all of these other areas as Cecilia mentioned, and bringing the counseling faculty and the instructional faculty to forums like this, so they can, see the models that that work at other colleges is really, what works on most campuses. Our faculty love working and having, think tanks of their own. And I know that that's worked in Los Angeles as well. Having faculty from across disciplines work together to problem solve, these very vexing challenges of redesign.
Thank you so much. I'm listening, and I think there's two sort of things. One is what's holding us back? What are the barriers on campus that keep us from doing this? And then also what are, as the panelists are talking and the audience is listening, what's our responsibility? How do we exercise leadership wherever we are on campus, whatever our role? And I'm hoping, Abdimalik, you might be able to speak to that one a little bit. And yeah. I think we're going to do then kind of a quick around, because we're beginning to come to the end of our time, and it feels like we just started.
I think a lot of it was touched upon. My colleagues and I developing a theory called curriculum trauma, which is the ways in which our students are exposed to trauma from matriculation to graduation. So this displacement, this referral in, referral out, as the neglect, the abuse, the erasure in the curriculum, the non-representation, all these are symptoms our students are continuously being perpetuated with. So how then do we put a stopgap to this hamster wheel of trauma? Well, I think we start to use words that we're not comfortable with, or that we've been taught to leave, like love, care, empathy. These are we're not trained as educators. Somewhere in our training, our graduate school, or somewhere in our certificate programs, we forget empathy and care and love go a very long way. Relationship building, right? Things that matter in the workforce. We call it mentorship and networking, but at the essence of it is relationships. And so I think we need to start utilizing the language of love more, I think, aggressively. Radical love, revolutionary love. I care about not only you, but the community that you come from, the single Latina woman that you're talking about, that young Black man walking down Pasadena. I care about you, and not only you, but the kid on the street that looks at you. Your grandmother who did not have the opportunity to be educated, that looks at you as a symbolism of hope for our future. And so when we start to look at our students with this asset of love and approach, I think we can really dismantle a lot of these bureaucracies and focus on our why. Not our what do we need to do, how do we need to get there, but our why. Our why is our students. And so I'm not gonna worry about my union. I'm not gonna worry about my role, my position. I'm not gonna be restricted by that. I'm gonna be rooted in the identity of my student. And I think the moment we start to scale back like that, because we have to do things that's outside of our job description. Let's get out of our job descriptions, get out of our minds and into our hearts. And I think we can start to then penetrate this needle of justice and equity in the way it should be. So I'm hoping that's one thing that we can do, is to do the hard work, as Dr. Ramos mentioned, but also the heart work. The heart work is very, very essential.
I can't think of a time in our history where that kind of love was more needed. Abdimalik, thank you so much for that. And you're getting saying thank you for that kind of inspiring heart work. Jennifer, I just know we're going to be starting to wrap up. I just want to know if there's something you'd like to add to that.
Well, originally I was going to go in a different direction, but I just want to say ditto. But in creating the heart work, I do believe we need to ensure that we're creating brave spaces where the heart work and the conversations can occur, as well as coalitions of support. And that comes from the framework of, we also have to acknowledge that there is racist behavior on our campuses. We can't, if you deny it, then you have no culpability. And so to move forward, my opinion, we have to address it, and then we can take responsibility together. We can listen to our colleagues and our students, we can reflect, and then we can act, and we can act together. And we need that support, and we need all of our different perspectives, because it's, someone said it's hard work, and you have to be prepared to be crucified. So that's where the coalition of support becomes urgent, and the support doesn't have a color. It's called support.
Yeah. You see people nodding a sober note, and you know, when we say, why aren't we doing it? Naming those structures, naming those dynamics of racism on campus are a really critical part of it, and supporting each other when we call it out and work on it. Jackie, did you want to add anything? We're very close to the end.
I guess all I can say is, again, ditto. And my, I guess our solidarity is, and I know I myself, I'm going to be leading the Racial Equity Task Force at my campus. A lot of us, people of color, are going to be put to lead that. And once again, we will be, like you said, Jennifer, we will be the center of, the center of some pushback and a lot more. So we need our white allies, and I mean that in the best intention of my heart. We will need to come together. We will need your support, and we will need to dig into the deepest part of our soul as human beings, and the connection that we have to the love of one another. So I want to call that out. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer, Trish, any last 2 words?
No, I think your panelists have dropped the mic.
Terrific. Michelle, any last thoughts?
No, I agree. I'm so inspired by everything everyone has said. Thank you. I think and yay to just kind of coming together and working towards an anti-racist, more community-focused, student-centered campus and existence in community college.
Thank you. Thank you all. I feel like we just now have really kind of uncovered and gotten to some really meaty discussion and dialogue, and our time is up, but it won't be the last time we'll pull people together. Thank you, each of you, so much for all the work that you're doing and for being here and being so present today. You can see in the chat, people are really appreciating your words. And thanks again to you, Hana, for sparking off this vibrant discussion. I think we're going to move to our next, they can't hear you really, but let's all do some claps. Let's put some claps in the Q&A or in the chat. Thank you so much. Powerful. Can I have the next slide, Adair? Just to follow up, a couple of panelists were referring to think tanks. I just want to say, as we've been putting together this event for you today, we pulled together a number of the people from the panel as well as others to kind of think together and brainstorm around these topics that you see on the slide here. And that informed our choice of not only of the panelists today and the topics, but also the topics we'll have on the 20th in the follow-up. We'll be having breakouts. Some of the panelists will be leading those breakouts. You'll have an opportunity to hear about flexible learning approaches. I've seen that come up in the chat, both competency-based education. We'll also be having breakouts on credit for prior learning. You'll hear more from Cecilia and some of her partners at Pasadena City College on how to navigate systems and some of the hidden requirements and dialogues that we need to have. We'll talk about onboarding, and just generally strategies to interrupt structural racism and sexism. So I hope that you'll be able to join us on the 20th. And we'll also be continuing to pull different ones of you together for a think tank. So stay visible and we'll stay connected. Next slide. So Friday, November 20th will be the next installment in this series. Will be everybody who's been on the panel. I mean, everybody who's attending will get information and the Zoom links to that and the detailed agenda coming up. Next. You'll also have a chance at your leisure to go on to this link and provide your feedback. You'll also get this link when we send you the materials from today. We'd love to hear your feedback and suggestions for the future. So please, when you get the link, when we send you the materials, just go on menti.com and fill it out. You have the information there. Next slide. Sherry, I'm going to turn it back over to you if you'd like to talk to people about the next steps.
Sure, thank you so much. It's not easy to get chills in a Zoom session, but many times I was like, oh, and I just was like, yes, yes, preach, preach. I felt that so deeply as a former work-based learning student who struggled with imposter syndrome throughout my professional career and higher ed career. I felt everything that folks were saying. So thank you all for that inspiration. The next step that we're going to do is we are going to go into our breakout sessions to kind of talk about what we learned, digest some of this, think about how we can apply this at our own colleges and in the work that we do, and to hear from our other colleagues across the state. So here is the link. You can find the breakout sessions all in this document, and please just attend the breakout session associated with your last name. So if, for example, my last name is Shojai, I would go to breakout number 9, which is QRNS. So that document was added in the chat. Please go ahead and click on that link and you can find the links to all the Zoom session that is associated with your last name. As Linda mentioned, a lot of this that we talked about today was kind of the framing of what the challenges are, what the issue is. Next week, next Friday, we are really going to get to the what are we doing? How do we fix this? How do we interrupt this? What are the strategies to really be able to start to create these transformations on our campuses? You could go to the next slide. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you all for the work that you do for students. Thank you to the panelists. I mean, just moved and inspired multiple times. I had tears in my eyes. So thank you. Please move forward. Move with revolutionary love. I felt that. And yeah, keep being amazing. Take care, and we'll see you next Friday. Yes, please feel free to click on the link now to be able to access the breakout sessions. I'll drop it again.
Thank you all.